Carol's moderating, just so you know, what we like have to leave the building by 8:30, so that's why there's not a ton of time for questions, but I'm gonna have you moderate.
Quick question, when you say that, for Patrice, when you say that dairy products are a form of racism, is this intentional? Is this for the purpose of profit, or is it for the purpose of harming individuals of color?
It would be, Milton Mills is the person who coined the term dietary racism, specifically to talk about the USDA's promotion of dairy. And so what he sees, there's a difference between institutional racism and personal racism. Personal racism is like prejudice that individuals have. Institutional racism disadvantages people of color, but may not have as its conscious purpose the disadvantaging of people of color. And so Milton Mills sees, and I agree, the USDA promotion of dairy for all groups as a form of institutional racism. It's not there in order to make African American kids worse at algebra, it just happens to have that effect because it gives them gassiness and headaches after lunch. For purposes of profit.
I did very much appreciate the fact that you acknowledged that there are forms of racism that exist, across the boundaries of different movements. White normativity itself is so pervasive that, I mean, pretty much everyone in this country is indoctrinated with it, through the public education system, particularly American history. I mean, or at least as it's taught in non-true aspects that those books promote. What would your opinion be? Do you think that we just need to address it within the animal rights movement, or do you think it is a problem that needs to be addressed, more collectively, not just within this movement, but pretty much, across the spectrum? I mean, our society deals with, as one author I'm quite fond of puts it, we live in a white supremacist, male-dominated rape warfare culture.
Didn't you just answer your own question?
Yes.
I guess I might do that same thing when I answer my own question. But I just wanted to point out some points that I thought were a little bit problematic in kind of all three of the talks about kind of like ignoring or like a refusal to interrogate whiteness, and like kind of like pushing that off to the side by trying to make like racism central without talking about how the reason why somebody wouldn't want to say something in front of a person of color or a Holocaust survivor isn't just like, I think that came off to me in as a really problematic statement, in that you're not quite, this is for Kim mostly, but also I think Patrice a little bit. Like that, I think that if the animal rights movement or animal liberation continues to posit something like that, that like we can't, like white people can't say something about this, like we need to think about why it is we want to say those things. Like what propels us to want to say something that we think couldn't be said in front of a person of color, or that would be offensive if heard by someone of color. And I think that that to me says like that we're not willing to interrogate our own whiteness and our own perspective and our own standpoint. And that the talks mostly were about like how to incorporate other people who have a different standpoint than a sort of like re-centered whiteness that I think that I'd like to see, like, and hopefully it'll happen in some of the papers over the conference, like a better interrogation of whiteness that didn't really happen. I don't know if you want to address that.
I guess I'll just say I can only interrogate whiteness as a white person. So you might be looking for something that I personally just can't give. What I tried to do was really explain my own struggle, and it's just a difficulty. It wasn't, I can't speak for Patrice, but my intention is not to have an answer, but almost like to share this sense of, I don't know how, and I struggle, like should I feel guilty, for all of these questions that arise when I'm doing activism, and I hear these kind of, and I thought I did somewhat address this idea of white privilege, and what does that mean? And the only thing I know how to do right now in my journey as an activist and academic is to acknowledge that I have it. That's at this point, that's all I know how to do, is to acknowledge that I have the white privilege, which I didn't know at one point. When there was a time when it was, I love what Patrice said about, what was it, Americans think they can find all the right ways to say all the right things and have all the answers, or something like that. I once thought, I truly believed that once I went vegan, everything would be figured out. Everything would be just wrapped up in it with a bow on top. So all I can do, and Patrice has been doing activism longer than I have, maybe you have a better answer. All I know how to do at this point is acknowledge, I know I have white privilege, and I have to continue to investigate what it means. And I would love to hear other people in the conference who I can learn from as well.
I think what you said is that's absolutely valid critique. For me, I have the same feeling. I think I have the same feeling that you have about, like, let's see what gets said in the rest of this conference. I came to this movement from the left and from a long time in the anti-racist movement. And when I first was asked to talk about these things, this was 13 years ago now in the movement, and what I found was that people applaud a lot of the things that I say, and then I don't see change, and so I keep trying to figure out, like interrogating whiteness, right? For me, that was a multi-year process. And so then I'm like, okay, so you've got 20 minutes, or you've got however many, you're gonna have this room full of predominantly white people. Which of the many things can you say, will you say? And at this point, I'm really concerned to avoid overly facile. And I think I didn't avoid it as much as I could have this time. So all I can say is, yeah, I agree, and I hope everybody hears that the process. Maybe you know a little bit. Okay, I think you do know, because if you're vegan animal liberationist, you have, I think, at some point gone through a process of confronting your species privilege. And it probably made you really sit to think about the things that you used to thoughtlessly go along with. And interrogating your white privilege is done in a non-facile way, is a similarly wrenching experience. And it's not something that listening to me or even all the workshops this weekend could possibly get you, but it's something that has to happen if, in fact, we're going to have a fully intersectional, and by that I mean a movement that understands that speciesism is absolutely entangled with other forms of oppression. And if we actually want to do something about speciesism, then we will have to go through that wrenching process. I just talked too much again, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
I think that when my approach to talking with individuals about these issues is to go back to speciesism. That's where I go. And so I try to tie in a whole bunch of other isms, and then I prefer to just focus on